What's up, grinders? So about a month ago, I made the stupid declaration online that I was going to try out Dreaming Spanish in order to see what it's like to learn a language from scratch via pure comprehensible input. That means I would not look at grammar, I would not look at dictionaries, I would literally just watch videos in the language until eventually I would learn it. Now, when I said that, I kind of said it on a whim, but you guys know the internet never forgets. So I had to stick to that, and I've been doing this for the last month and a half. So this is my first video in my series on Dreaming Spanish, where I'm thinking I'm probably going to do a video every 50 hours or so. And I am now 50 hours into learning Spanish via Dreaming Spanish. And as you can see, I started on the 18th of Jan. I went pretty good, doing about an hour, maybe 2 hours some days, and some days just under an hour, but pretty much overall, I would say roughly an hour and a half every single day up until today, where I have now finished the first level, level 1, and I'm on to level 2. So let's have a quick look at what level 2 says. You know some common words. You understand some common words, even if you are not 100% sure of how to pronounce them. You can now guess the meaning of some two-word sentences like go home, eat cake. There are only a few words that you could produce yourself. For many words, you're still not sure what sounds they're made of. Okay, so I have actually been recording my progress as I've gone along because I wanted to give you guys an insight into how this kind of happens, at least from an individual perspective of my own. Now, I do need to give you guys some background information about me, especially if you're new to the channel, so you know what I've entered into this with. I have absolutely no experience with Spanish. Zero. I never studied Spanish. I think the only times I've ever encountered Spanish realistically is probably in the Discord, where people just randomly type out Spanish and I'll see a couple of things here and there. So I have not studied Spanish, which I think will make this video very unique compared to everyone else out there who does their 50, 100, 300 hour video updates on Dreaming Spanish, because nearly every one of them, in fact, no, all of them that I've seen, they spent years at school studying Spanish, and then they declared, well, I didn't learn Spanish, so now I'm going to try Dreaming Spanish, and oh my god, I've made amazing progress. This is the course everyone needs to do. So I am different. I've never had that input from Spanish before. However, I am a fluent speaker of Esperanto, which has a massive influence from Latin, and Spanish is also a language that's massively influenced by Latin. And obviously I speak English. Spanish and English share a lot of cognates, and then I've also studied Mandarin Chinese, and I'm conversational in this language, and also Latin. So I'm not like your newbie who's never encountered a language before and doesn't understand the concepts of grammar. So this means that I'm probably going to advance a little bit faster, or maybe even significantly faster, we'll see, than most other people who would approach this without having learnt any language before. So let's go through what I've learnt so far in the first 50 hours, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts. And remember, this will probably be the first video in a series of videos that's going to take several years to create. So let's begin. Now, here's the interesting thing about this process. When I started watching videos on the Dreaming Spanish website, I literally started just watching from one of the vloggers on here. They're essentially a whole heap of vloggers who make videos. They're about 6 minutes long, and they just talk about a random topic based on your level. And obviously I started with the level which is called Super Beginner. If you have a look right here, here is the Super Beginner series. I'm actually now up to the Beginner series. I made some quick progress with the Super Beginner series, and I'm almost certain that the majority of that progress was literally just the fact that I speak Esperanto. I could just recognize so many words out of the box. However, for those words I didn't recognize, here's where things get interesting. So I was watching one vlogger, and I believe it is Shell right here, or it might have been Augustina, which was another vlogger on there, and they kept using this word, I think it is yo, which means I. Now, you're probably going to notice I'm going to mispronounce all of these words because at the moment I can recognize them, but I've never actually tried speaking them before. So at the time when I was watching her, I watched about 3 hours worth over a couple of days, and I literally thought this word was her name, because it kept popping up and she kept referring to herself, and I just thought she was referring to herself to make it obvious for the rest of the context of the sentence that this is her. But no, For some stupid reason, I thought it was her name. And then after about 3 hours of content, I realized, oh, because I started watching someone else, no, this is the pronoun for I. And it messed me up for about 6 hours because I kept thinking it was the name of the person. So this created some serious confusion in my head. And even though I had now registered the fact that it wasn't a person's name, I still kept seeing it as a person's name. I had like acquired it almost as a name, as someone would say if they were using comprehensible input lingo. So that was a bit of an annoying one, but after about 6 hours, it went back to just being a pronoun, which was good. I would say the super beginner series, like these first videos, they're okay, but at the same time, they're like not that great realistically because they're just introducing the most basic of words and phrases, and they use a lot of sock puppets, and I am not a fan of sock puppets, although they started to grow on me later on because Augustina, I believe that's her name, one of the teachers, she's just really expressive, and I kind of got used to it after a while, but there was definitely some resistance on my part there for a while, and a big majority of those super beginner videos is literally sock puppets. Now, we're going to jump about 14 hours ahead because literally for the first 14 hours, it was just me recognizing cognates and also just kind of guessing these sentences with all of these cognates because I could from my Esperanto and English experience. So I don't know if I got anything from those first 14 hours. It's hard to say, but about 14 hours in, I was able to start recognizing some sentences like, do you know what it is in Spanish? I can't say it, but I can recognize it. And that's due to the fact that the words were similar enough to Esperanto that I could put together full sentences. So I made some good progress there. Now, I also started to pick up on some false friends. And now these are false friends not just between English and Spanish, but also between Esperanto. Here's a great example of one. We have the English word large, which in Esperanto, you'll hear another word that is larga. But it doesn't mean large, it means wide. And then you've got, I think in Spanish it's pronounced largo, which means long. So like I was recognizing this and going, oh God, this is going to be great. I'm going to like mix up all three languages now. But anyway, still progress was really slow. And then about 18 hours in, I finally started to recognize the word for but. So at 18 hours, started to pick it out and be like, oh, okay, now I know what that word means. At 24 hours in, I started to pick up on the word now. And again, I'm not going to say these words in Spanish because I just can't. Like, I literally cannot verbalize them. 30 hours in, I finally moved from the super beginner series into the beginner series. So I was probably quite ahead. I'm not sure when you're meant to jump from super beginner to beginner. And I actually found the videos about complex science topics to be the most interesting at the beginner level. The most interesting and the easiest to understand because they just had so many cognates between English and then also between Esperanto. So I was just like, okay, well, this is easy. I can literally just watch these videos without having to like even think about it. Okay, about 31 hours in, things started to get a little bit confusing with some things. Like, for example, I started to recognize that there's a word that is tambien, and I'm still confused about this word to this day. I'm pretty sure it means also. However, it sounds very similar to the Latin and Esperanto tamen, and it feels like it's used in that way, which means however. So I'm not sure if there's actually two words, or if there's one word and it has multiple meanings, or it just means also. It's still very hard for me to tell, even 50 hours in. Okay, at about 33 hours in, I finally recognized the word for here, aqui. At 35 hours in, I started to finally recognize that como means how. I don't know why it took me so long to actually recognize this word because it's literally in every single video, but it just did not register until some random video about 35 hours in when I was like, oh, okay. And it was about the same time that I also recognized the word sin, which I believe means without. We're going to jump to 48 hours in, and then I realized that como is actually pretty much similar to the Esperanto kiel, and it can also mean as. Now, I may actually be wrong about these things, because I'm still like learning this via just watching. So I might actually be saying everything wrong about what I've recognized so far about Spanish. So don't take this as a Spanish lesson. This is me at my current stage in dreaming Spanish and current stage in learning Spanish. Now, here's the interesting thing. I'm now 50 hours in. I can't even count to 10 yet. So I can say, I think I'm going to try count to 10 and I'll stop and I may start, I don't know. So we've got uno, dos, tres, cuatro, I think, Cinco is all the time that one pops up. So I'm pretty sure I got that one right. I don't know 6, 7, 8 is like octe or something. It's like, it sounds like that. And then we've got nueve, which is 9, and I can't remember 10. And numbers past 10, I actually can't really recognize without seeing them like written there. There's something weird that happens with Spanish numbers between 10 and 20. I'm not sure, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there's something weird there. Kind of like how in English we've got 11 and 12, which doesn't actually fit the pattern of the teens. I don't know, I could completely be wrong about that, but there feels like there's something weird going on there. So where am I realistically up to after 50 hours? Well, after 50 hours, I can recognize a lot of like very simple structures and words and stuff like that. But I would say about 80% of those are literally just cognates between English and Esperanto, which I'm just recognizing. And there's actually very few words which I'm picking up that don't exist in either language, which do exist in do exist in Spanish. But even if I really think on them, they actually do have English equivalents, so I'm probably picking up on them as well via English, even though they're very rare words in English. I'm trying to think, I think literally only the word eat and drink are words that I've definitely picked up via this method. There's probably others. In all honesty, there's probably a good 30 or so that I've picked up, maybe more, but it's really hard to say. Now, in comparison to a standard language learning method that I would recommend if you wanted to go out and learn Spanish, I would say, okay, well, at this early stage in the language, you want to focus first on your pronunciation, and then you're going to want to do some basic entry grammar, some courses. It doesn't matter what ones. You just want to get like the most basics of the grammar in your brain, so that you can then actually go and watch these types of videos. Like, I feel like this would be an amazing resource if you add it with some active study. You would make really good progress. But at the moment, 50 hours in, I feel like my progress is absolutely shite. I'm going to be completely honest about that. Now, maybe as I progress and I go to 100, 150, things are going to start to exponentially speed up, and all these things that I've been absorbing are all just going to collapse in, and suddenly I'm going to make massive progress. We're going to have to wait for future videos to know that. But at the moment, if I wasn't doing this as part of a challenge to try and learn a language via just, pure comprehensible input, I would have given up. Like, this is so inefficient. It is not friggin' funny at all. And you got to remember, I'm coming into this with multiple languages backing me up. If I was, say, a Chinese person who's never studied, say, like English or Spanish or something, and I just jumped on this website and started using this, there's no way I'd be outside the Super Beginner series by now, because so much of the Super Beginner videos are predicated on the fact that you understand English and basically the grammar of European languages. Like, you basically have so much that you're subconsciously pulling upon. It's not funny. Now, I'm not here to shit on Dreaming Spanish. That's not what I'm getting at. But I do want to say that this is one slow-ass method so far. Now, I guess the question is, why the hell would I continue doing this if it's so inefficient? Because I want to, as a teacher, be able to learn an entire language via this method and then do a justified comparison between this and various other methodologies for learning languages. And also, I want to test out a couple of theories. One of the big things that people say that you get as a result of this without, doing any speaking is that when you do finally start speaking, let's say, 1,000 hours, 1,500 hours in whatever, that you have like a beautiful accent and you know how to enunciate the words correctly and you sound completely natural. So I'm curious to see if that is true. And for me, Spanish is not a language that I have realistically any need to actually learn. So this is more a project in testing a methodology overall. So that is basically my thoughts at 50 hours in. I will continue on this and I will drop a video at 100 hours in, which will probably come in about 2 months, I'm guessing. It's hard to say because I do, some days 2 hours, some days under 60 minutes. It's really hard to say. So that's pretty much it. If you guys have liked this video, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next video. And if you're not there, well, then you may get paper bagged by Elmo.